Never judge a fairy by its appearance. Not only can their appearances be an illusion, they can also be used as a ploy to entice or seduce or even trap a person. And so it is with the Corrigan of Brittany, known for her beauty, her golden tresses, sparkling eyes, moist lips and ever-beckoning arms. She delights in seducing and harassing human men. You see, below the shiny and beautiful surface dwells a whip-smart mind and a simmering resentment. Her feeling toward human men teeters on that fine line between love and hate. But the Corrigan carries a particular grudge against men of the clergy. It's possible that to this day the Corrigan are holding clergy accountable for the persecution and ultimate demise of their ancestors. The Corrigan are a fascinating fairy, fire and ice all in one. Well, let's get to know her. The Corrigan are often described as being human-like in appearance. At least that's how they choose to appear to us, with bright smiles and honey gold hair. They are almost always beautiful to our eye and always female. But we must not allow ourselves to be beguiled by the Corrigan's beauty, because under those golden tresses dwells a dangerous passion. Perhaps it's best to say that she greatly desires human men, but when she's through with them, she dispenses them in whichever manner pleases her at that moment. Some men survive the encounters unscathed, but many don't. I have several true encounters to share with you today, but first, just to fill in the image of her in your mind, take a listen to Scottish author Lewis Spence and his description of the Corrigan. Among those forest beings, none is more relentless than the Corrigan, who has power to enmesh the heart of the most constant swain and doom him to perish miserably for love of her. Beware of the fountains and of the wells of the forest. You may know her by her bright hair, like golden wire, her red flashing eyes and her laughing lips. But if you would dare her wiles, you must come alone to her fountain by night, for she shuns even the half-gloom that is day in shadow. It sounds quite ominous, doesn't it? Well, most all recorded encounters with Corrigans involve men, but I have one very rare published account here of a chance encounter with a young girl, and it tells, I think, a great deal about the ruthless nature of the Corrigan. Take a look at this. Where my grandfather lived, said Madame Larousigue, there was a young girl who went to the Sabbath of the Corrigans, and when she returned and was asked where she had been, she said, "I have travelled over water, wood, and hedges," and she related all that she had seen and heard in the company of the Corrigans. Then one night afterwards, the Corrigans came into the house, beat her, and dragged her from her bed. Upon hearing the uproar, my grandfather arose and found the girl lying flat on the stone floor. "Never question me again," she said to him, "or they will kill me." Now, before we go on, if you're enjoying my video, please show me some love by giving that like button a little tickle. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm so glad you found me. Now be sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so that you don't miss any future videos. It's easy and free, and these little things really help nourish my channel to grow in that wild forest that is YouTube. Now back to the Corrigan. Well, I would have to question the wisdom of anyone who seeks out the Corrigan. A chance encounter might end okay, but it more likely won't. To be fair, it can be difficult to avoid the Corrigan. They allow themselves to be seen in the time between the twilight hour and the break of dawn, but they are also a sociable lot, often dwelling in groups, which of course means if you're out at night, it's more likely that you will be seen by them, so less likely you can avoid them. There is a little township in Lower Brittany which, from sunset onwards, was the favourite walking ground of a lady who went by the name the Fairy of Lanascol. Many claimed to have met her and described her in colours which were most varied. Some described her as an old woman who walked all bent over, her two hands leaning on a stump of a crutch with which, in autumn, from time to time, she stirred the dead leaves. The dead leaves, which she thus stirred, became suddenly shining like gold and clinked against one another with the clear sound of metal. According to others, she looked as a young princess, marvellously adorned, after whom there hurried curious little silent men. She advanced with a majestic and regal bearing. Sometimes she stopped and cast a look on the water of a pool, and the pool trembled to its very depths, as though stirred by an access of fear beneath the potency of her look. That account shows us just how powerful the Corrigan are. They are so deeply in tune with nature that they can disguise themselves within it, can appear to us in any form, and do so at the same speed as our mind. And that's not all. Many believe that the Corrigan can change not only their own appearance, but the appearance of the surrounding landscape. And they do this to support whatever their motive is, whether it be cruelty or seduction. The one thing that can disperse their illusion is a ray of daylight. A single ray will melt the illusion, and you will once again see clearly, think clearly, and be able to make an escape. Maybe this explains why they rarely venture out during daylight. So it is during the day they keep it low-key, hanging around quiet, undisturbed ponds, lakes and forests. But when night falls, they amuse themselves and satisfy their desires by playing tricks and seducing travellers passing by, or even folk who live nearby. Very few are the men who can resist the temptation of the Corrigan, with her flowing golden hair, sparkling eyes, moist lips, and beckoning arms. Only the strongest of will succeed in withstanding her wiles. But even those fellas that are devoted to their wife or their beloved, who do resist, who reject her advances, do not escape the encounter unscathed. Their integrity or loyalty to their loved one still may not be enough to save them. There was a lord who was married to a woman whom he loved dearly. One day, during a ride to gather May blossoms, upon his wife's request, he became thirsty and drank water from a fountain where he happened upon a Corrigan. The Corrigan demanded that he sleep with her. The lord forcefully and angrily refused her because he said he was faithful to his wife, and then he rode away, hearing her call after him that he was now fated to die. The lord, feeling ill even as he drew homeward, said to his waiting mother, "My good mother, if you love me, make my bed. I am sick unto death, but say not a word to my bride, for within 3 days I shall be laid in the grave. A Corrigan has done me evil." As requested, this was kept secret from his wife for 3 days. When the lord's mother finally told her daughter-in-law the truth of the encounter with the Corrigan, the wife soon died of a broken heart and was buried beside her husband. There are many reports of the Corrigan lurking around paths and roads at night, waiting for anyone who might be winding their way home after dark. Some say they will injure, pursue, or seduce them by way of punishment for something, perhaps for infringing on the night, the time that they consider to be theirs. But they don't always have retribution in mind. Take a look at this. The favourite amusement of the Corrigan is the circular dance. When the moon is clear and bright, they gather for their frolic near dolmens and at crossroads, or even in the open country, and they never miss an opportunity of enticing a mortal passing by to join them. If he happens to be a good-natured man and enters their sport heartily, they treat him quite as a companion, and may even do him some good turn. But if he is not agreeable, they will make him dance until he falls down exhausted, and should he commit some act thoroughly displeasing to them, he will meet their certain, terrible revenge. And what of those who unwittingly live nearby the dwelling place of a group of Corrigan? Are they more likely to be targeted? Not necessarily. We know they take pleasure in targeting people who are simply passing by, so we mustn't assume that they'll continually target those who live near them. They might just take pleasure in playing with them or toying with them. Take a look at this. A story is told in Lower Brittany where the Corrigans slaughtered a farmer's fat cow and invited the farmer to partake of the feast it provided. If the farmer can do this with good grace and even humour, he will find his cow perfectly whole in the morning. But if he refuses to join the feast or joins it unwillingly, in the morning he is likely to find his cow actually dead and eaten. So why does the Corrigan do this? Why does she torment human men? She's not the only fairy to seemingly use humans as playthings, as entertainment, or to use her beauty and charm to lure and seduce, then discard or injure or even kill. This brings to mind the Lianan She of Ireland. I'll leave a link at the end of this video to my video featuring the beautiful Lianan She. She too is impossibly alluring, and she too takes a human man under her wing, so to speak. She gives him the gifts of insight into the heart of beauty, into the darkest corners of humanity. She gives him the gift of artistic genius, but oftentimes takes in exchange his life. And what of the Glasteig of Scotland? Oh yeah, she's a complex one. She shows a great dedication and affection for animals and can be enormously helpful to farming families. But boy, when the spirit takes her, she has a deadly disdain for human men too. So the Corrigan is certainly not the only fairy to have a reputation for sometimes targeting human men. I wonder if there is a common thread among these. But thankfully, when it comes to the Corrigan, we're not entirely in the dark as to why she does this. Many believe that the Corrigan are actually descended from ancient Druidesses, and they carry within them a malicious loathing towards celibate Catholic priests. But to be fair, they don't seem to discriminate. They appear to hate all male-dominated, organised religions and those who preach them. If this is true, it goes a long way to explain why they show such disdain to priests and ministers and clergy, and more broadly, just to men in general. Could it be they blame religion and the men who built and maintain them for the ruin of their own ancestors? They are fairy. They have long memories. Any cruelty or injustice will not be forgotten. We know that many members of the clergy not only believe in, but have had their own experiences with fairies, so it's surely possible. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I'm so happy to welcome 2 new channel members, Rebecca and Appalachian Life with Irish Roots. I really appreciate your support, both of you, and hope that you'll enjoy the special benefits of being a member of the channel. And thanks to everyone for sharing these stories with me. I really love making these videos and sharing them with you. I'll have a shiny new video for you next Friday, so until then, stay curious. Cheerio!